Standing here, I feel like I'm presenting to an empty room, which is really sad, right? And also my OCD is really set off by how everyone is like, it feels like the room is going to tip over or something. So I'm feeling very lonely over here, but that's cool. Can everybody hear me? If you're on the microphones and I talk over here, Nick says it's going to be fine. Can everybody hear me even if I just talk like this? Yes. Okay, good news. I hope the microphones do too. Can the microphones hear me? No. A little bit. Can the microphones hear me now? Yeah. What about here? What about here? That's okay? So like to here? Here. Okay. So you keep your stuff on this side, okay? And I'll keep my stuff on this side. Otherwise, Dad is going to turn around the car and go home.
Can I just do like a 2-minute intro
Please.
For tonight? And also for you. So, hi everyone. Hope you had a good morning already with some decent sessions about finding Pokemons with entity validations. All good? I wanted to ask you if you wanted to join our social event tonight, please go to the website and subscribe on that list so we know exactly how many people are coming. It's important because there's a lot of beer. So, yes. Also, there's a guided tour in the City Museum of Ghent. It's available for free, and you'll learn a bit about the digital history as well. They know that you're all very digital. The guides were trained to not be too theoretical, but really practical, and it's like a really digital museum as well. So I think most of you, or all of you, will really enjoy that. And there's like snacks available, plenty of snacks, and it starts around 7 p.m. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please go to that website, or our website, and go to that list. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you Jeffrey McGuire, and go at it.
Can you please make sure, like, sign me up on that list, please?
I'll sign you up on that list.
Thank you, because I wouldn't want to miss out on a beer party here. You know, especially if you're asking for help with all that. Oh, well, this is awkward. Hello, everyone. Interesting time of day. I get up pretty early to do a lot of these, so this is very nice. I'm having a relatively stressful week, so it was nice to be able to get up at home this morning and take the train over. Yay for being European, right? How many of you are Drupal service providers? You build Drupal stuff for clients. Okay, and how many of you are the Drupal person or people within some organization that's not a Drupal organization, like a university or a government? You don't have to be shy. Oh, okay, that's cool. It's cool. Now, at least one of you should be assessing technologies right now to make a choice about whether Drupal is right for you. How many of you are thinking about using Drupal? And was that you? Yeah. Okay. So everybody who's a service provider, these are your targets today. Right. So. And how many of you have to sell Drupal? And I don't just mean to clients, but also to your boss or to other departments or something like that. So we have to convince people to use Drupal. Okay, all right. So, and how many people just sling code and don't have to worry about all that business stuff because they've got a paycheck? That's nice for you. Now, for you, I want to link you to sort of some of the higher purpose and higher mission and what we use your code for. And I just want to point out, this is like the heavy stuff just to get us going. You know, I found 2016 really, really difficult so far. It's been really, really challenging in so many ways in the world and in my family personally. And, you know, our friends and colleagues in Drupal and in PHP and in Symfony and JavaScript and open source have given us a great gift. Right? And think about how our communities build the software we use. It's a model that I think the world should be following. We're international and we are cross-border and we operate on principles of enlightened self-interest. We value facts and tests and data and, you know, egocentric, isolationist, xenophobic, And hateful thought doesn't last very long around Drupal. And you know, Drupal's a great home. So our developer friends, thank you. You've given us all the tools to make a living. And in the case of Drupal, the tools to give both technical and less technical people, to give them the opportunity to build community, to communicate, to make a difference and change the world. And that's really, really powerful. So today with what you're learning and you know, the gift of Drupal 8 that we've all got now, I hope to help you use this gift more effectively by focusing on the value that some of Drupal 8's new technical features deliver. Now they might deliver, and I'm going to say this is what we call, I guess, overall business value. So this might be in terms of delivering value to your end clients or your organization. It might be to value that makes your Drupal shop run better and your day as a developer run better, allowing you to make something better, faster, cheaper, right? And so on. I'd like to point out that Drupal and open source, none of this is manna that rains from heaven. It doesn't just happen, okay? People use their time to build it for us. Some of us get to do Drupal on a paycheck. Some of us do Drupal as soon as we get off of work and when we you know, at the weekend. And the best way that you can thank the people who've done this for you, and thank you anyone who's contributed here, the best way that you can thank them is really to engage fully with open source, engage fully with Drupal. And if you're not contributing to it, especially if your company or your organization is not contributing to Drupal, you're not getting as much out of it as you could. I am doing a lot of work with a very nice Dutch guy called Chris Jansen right now about the business value of contribution to open source. And if you want to hear us talk about that, please invite us to your conference. And look out for some blogs and some conference sessions coming in the next year from us. So please contribute, right? Oh, let's update this. This guy lived a long time ago. Let's update this to, you know, nobody made a greater mistake than they who did nothing because they could only do little. Really, download Drupal, use it. If you find a spelling mistake in the Flemish translation, please fix it. That's already huge. I was talking with people in India who speak Malayalam, and they were wondering about how to get started with contribution. I said, literally, you know, make your language translation better for Drupal. All of Drupal benefits. You know, somebody's going to have access to it because you can, and somebody in your community is going to make Drupal better for all of us. So just go for it. Yeah, it's been one of those thoughtful years for me. Everybody basically calls me Jam. I work at a little company called Acquia. I have a really nice title and frankly a really, really nice job. A few weeks ago somebody said, so Jam, what is it that you do when you're not, you know, giving presentations? And so I threw in a couple of slides. I wrote the foreword to this very interesting Drupal book recently. I get asked to do that sort of thing. I've had a blog series this week called the Drupal 8 Module of the Week. Now, this kind of points to an overarching theme in my activities. I have written about, I'm not sure exactly, 25 or 26 blog posts about Drupal 8 functionality, what they do and the value they deliver. And I've cooperated in almost every case with the module maintainers, people who ported it to Drupal 8, people, you know, the technical people who are working on the code, and have created for the Drupal community 25, 20, however many it is, and I've got another dozen coming, marketing artifacts where there were none before. So I have taken your ability to make cool functionality and write code, which I can't do anymore, and I've turned that into something of value for all of us that should help all of us sell Drupal. The idea in January was Drupal 8 adoption was going kind of slow, and we needed to show people that Drupal can do great stuff already. And I've had a lot of fun doing it, and I'm going to run the series through the rest of the year and then see what I'm up to next. So this idea of I like to connect business people to your smarts, and I like to be a bridge between those worlds. I do a thing called the Acquia Podcast, and it's been on hiatus for a month or so. It's coming back now. We also get to talk with people in our communities and other communities about what they're doing, what's going on in open source, how open source thinking affects other stuff. So, on that topic, okay, a friend of mine, she's an MBA business consultant. She's running a startup of her own in, what do you call that when you haven't told anyone yet? It's not a fantasy world. It's, anyway, incognito. So she's setting up her own startup, but she's doing business consulting. And because she lives in Cologne, and we're friends, she's also friends with Campbell Vertesi and Robert Douglas and Adam Duran and Andrew Melk. And she just believes in Drupal because that's essentially what all her friends do, right? But it's really, really hard for her to go to some other business and say, hey, you should totally migrate from Typo 3 to Drupal because, all my friends do Drupal, right? That's not a great reason, and she's an MBA and way smarter than me. And she's been searching around on the web, and she's been looking for those materials where she could objectively say, hey, business person, you should be definitely looking at Drupal for your web property, for your migration, for your new product or whatever, because ... right? The material, to a large degree, is not there. And this extends to, small to medium enterprises who might become our customers or might become members of our community if they adopted Drupal. It's hard to find material that answers big, open questions. It's easy if you know something about Drupal. It's easy for us because we forget that we're thinking through 5 or 6 layers of abstraction, okay? But let's talk about some of these big questions. So I'm focusing this thing through 2 lenses now. At every introduction, I have some questions that I've thrown together that I think reverse engineer the business value that I'm talking about. But I'm really, really looking for help and ideas about what questions our technology answers. So this is exactly the opposite of how we think about stuff, which is, oh my God, it's so great that, PSR3 lets me use monologue in Drupal instead of Drupal's logging solution. Wow, that's amazing, right? Or dependency injection containers, or object-oriented. Unfortunately, the people who are paying our bills don't really care. Yes? So, look, how do I know Drupal is going to be around in 5 years? How do I know it's going to do what I need? And does Drupal pass the truck test? Well, we can say, from a sales perspective, look, Drupal is a huge percentage of the web and a huge percentage of big, complex sites, okay? And not only do we have more than 30,000 active developers, we have thousands of Drupal shops around the world, so that if you work with one company and you're unhappy, you can definitely go to another. Oh, and hey presto, it's open source, so you can have all the code, the data is yours, none of those problems. And this is what roughly 1/10 of our developer community looks like. So it would have to be an amazing truck to wipe out Drupal at this point. You can be pretty sure that Drupal's got great momentum. You can go and look at case studies on these websites, and you can also go to local meetups around the world. You can come to our conventions, and you can meet the people who are building and doing this every day. So yes, we think Drupal's got great momentum. And we think it is able to solve the sort of problems. Did I write that down? I think I wrote it down somewhere else. Oh, how do I know Drupal will do what I need? Well, it's really, really widely adopted across technology, across pharmaceuticals, in banking now, which amazes me every time I think about it, at universities, in education, in media, in publishing. So we think not only will Drupal do what you want, but we've got the professionals in place who will be able to do that kind of Drupal for you too. Okay? Yeah. Fine, but that was all Drupal 7. Is Drupal 8 going to live up to the success of Drupal 7? Well, says Jam. Angie Byron and I did write this little book that you can read. The ultimate guide to Drupal 8 touches on a lot of things that I'm talking about today. Gives a high-level overview. Forgive me, I have a cold. Gives a high-level overview of what's going on in Drupal 8. It's got a bunch of great screenshots, a bunch of great explanations. It is currently up to date for Drupal 8.1, and Angie and I are in the middle of updating it to be up to date for 8.2, which comes out on October 5th. My premise, frankly, is that not only will Drupal 8 live up to the success of Drupal 7, but in the end it will far eclipse it. So let's assume for a moment, technically, that Drupal 8 does everything that Drupal 7 did. Let's look at things that are new in Drupal 8, things that go beyond there, and the value that it's delivering. So here are some more prototype, reversed engineered questions. You know, I want to do a poetry site in Marathi. Does Drupal support Unicode characters? Well, of course it does. It has since version 3 or 4, or if not forever. And there are 100 and however many languages on our translation server, and you can always add another one. Drupal has huge international communities. Not only does it speak your language, it probably has service providers who speak your language. Okay, that's fine, but I live in a multicultural, multilingual society. I have editors who will only work in French, and I have editors who will only work in German, but we have, you know, we have to duplicate content, identical content in multiple languages, completely different content in multiple languages, and one admin interface. The interface has to stay the same, but the content has. Drupal, right, can model every multilingual site model that we and Gabor and his team have been able to think of so far. And as of now, I used to be able to say that, look, Drupal is, you know, from the second click, you never even have to see English again in Drupal. And that's not quite true now. It's changed. If you have things set up right, Drupal will detect the language going on in your browser and give you this page in that language already and install Drupal in that language already. So for the first time, Drupal, so English is not a special case in Drupal anymore. English itself is modifiable and translatable. You don't have to make a copy of it if you have a special local requirement in English. And if you don't speak English, you never have to look at English again. So great opportunity to contribute. The French and Dutch and German and English translations are all in great shape, which I think are the languages most relevant to this room. But there's always room for improvement there. So just using the Wayback Machine for a second, whoever had to build a multilingual website in Drupal 7? Oh yeah, keep those hands up, keep those hands up. And how many of you absolutely loved it? Huh? Yeah, okay. There are perverts in every room, it's cool. You know, masochists, right? So we had this incredible system that did us great service. We are able to do great multilingual sites in Drupal 7, but you know, nodes, content translation was actually only for nodes, but by Drupal 7 not all content was nodes anymore, and we couldn't necessarily translate you know, other sorts of things. Variables and menus were tricky, and all these different solutions were written at different times to solve different problems and edge cases, and of course they were done by different people with different motivations and different coding styles, and you know, luckily, right, you only had to install like 27 or so modules to get a fully translatable website, right? And also, they worked perfectly harmonious together. The configuration was super simple, and it wasn't any hassle at all. No, but I'm good at marketing, right? Yeah, so it was a mess. It was really hard. We could get it right, but it was a lot of work. So, God bless Gabor Hoichi and his team, and my batteries run out on the pointer. Okay, so look, Drupal 8, you download it. Out of the box, it comes with 4 modules that granularly let you model any multilingual, any style of multilingual localized site that you need. 4 modules out of the box. This is going to allow you to work much more quickly and much more efficiently, produce better and more consistent results because you're not wading through literally dozens of contrib modules to get it right. Huge win for all of us in multilingual countries, all of us who have to do government contracts, all that sort of thing. There's an incredible amount of business value in this work here. Can I afford to have a native app? Do I even need a native app? What are my options on mobile? Can I work on my site content while I'm in the airport? What if I have an emergency, I have to change something? You know, does Drupal integrate with Google Analytics or my special web service or what it is? Okay, well, this mobile first initiative 5 or 6 or 7 years ago when Dries proposed it was incredibly innovative. I mean, at that point, I remember doing a presentation at the time saying Gartner analysts believe that by 2018, 35% of all internet access will be on mobile devices, right? Now, the truth is, more than 85% of the internet access in the world is now on pocket supercomputers, right? And I think maybe not this room, because of our jobs, but a great deal of the world now essentially exclusively accesses the internet with something like this, with some sort of a screen size and some sort of a resolution, and maybe it looks like a tablet, and maybe it has a keyboard, and maybe it doesn't, right? But mobile first can handle the vagaries of this world really, really well. So there's this other common theme that I guess in Drupal 8, we as a community, we decided to open source our open source project. To some degree, we acknowledge that our specialty is content management. Let's do content management really well. We have great data and entity modeling. We have great database querying, displaying technologies, all that stuff. We do that really, really well. But on the other hand, we've adopted a whole bunch of core technologies that we don't have to maintain that make our content management system better. So HTML5 is one of them. It's optimized for mobile out of the box. We get that for free. Video and audio playback comes for free, and that was a huge hassle in the past, of course. It gives us really interesting possibilities with offline caching in the browser. Browser cross-compatibility is largely taken care of thanks to HTML5. And it gives us much, much cleaner code. And one super cool feature that Jan Lemmens pointed out this morning in his talk about Drupal 8 was that we get the responsive images thanks to HTML5, and they're built into Drupal 8. Sure. It's very kind of you. They're AAAs, though. So it means that a page, like a modern web page with a huge, beautiful image, right, and the edgeless display and everything, that image is, how is it a 500K image, an 800K image, right, that you want to see on your desktop when you have a great connection. You don't want that to be fully downloaded on a mobile connection with a mobile device with less processing power and then re-rendered to be small. I saw a talk a while ago about the picture element in HTML5, and the energy consumption from reprocessing images, where they give you the 1024 image by default and then re-render it for your mobile browser, is like literally takes 10 or 20% off of your battery life just doing that rendering. So we get that for free, and Drupal does that, so we can deliver pages to mobile devices much faster, because we're not doing that. We deliver appropriately sized images to every device. And all of Drupal's core themes are responsive out of the box. So all of that work that you used to have to do, if you build off of a base theme in Drupal, you've got a great head start on making something responsive. This goes into the area of, do I need a native app? Can I afford a native app? Well, if you're building with Drupal 8, and you don't want to spend that money, you can make a website that works great on any device. And that's a huge amount of business value that you're delivering for your clients. How many of you ever worked on a Drupal 7 site, excuse me for just a second, on mobile? Pinch, zoom, pinch. No? You ever had to fix a typo in an article? Fact check, change something in Drupal 7 on mobile? Oh, the joys, right? Well, Drupal 8's admin interface is also responsive, and it does really cool tricks like menu items with words become icons. We have a couple of different solutions for menus popping in and out of the side, so they're not in the way when you don't need them. We've got this cool thing where we have tables where the columns have priorities, so as the viewport gets smaller, you can say which ones absolutely have to stay there and which ones can disappear, and in which order they do, and that's really fun. So you have a great admin and content authoring experience if you have to. it's there for you in Drupal 8. And this is one of the many improvements where we as developers are handing off a much, much better living and working environment to the people who live in our sites every day. Speaking of mobile first, well, this is more than just mobile first, but if we turn on RESTful web services and a couple other things in core, in my vision, Drupal 8 is a user interface for building APIs, right? Drupal 8 is a user interface for building a web service, building a modern digital business. Drupal 8 doesn't have to have any kind of a front end at all, or it can talk to whatever you want it to be. Here are some different CMS models that Pantheon modeled. Oh, I guess my slide's being cut off there a little bit. Everybody's been talking about decoupling, right? Well, this loose coupling and the fact that Drupal 8 is a great web services engine in and out lets us model all sorts of interesting systems. Campbell Vertesi and I modeled a theoretical system for Symfony Live. Last year, the Symfony people are very interested in meeting us Drupal people, by the way. Go to some of their events. They're really interesting. So here's Drupal doing content management, right? And giving content authors and the everyday people a regular website backend to work in. And that ends up being the canonical data source for an HTML5 website, some cool front-end technology, whatever that you want to build, and the same backend is the backend for your Android and iOS native apps. So you have a single data source. You don't have to edit things once for the .m website, or once for iOS, and once for Windows, and what have you. And this gives you a lot of security and mitigates a lot of risk in businesses, especially businesses like pharmaceuticals, anything with legal consequences. This is a great model. And then we can integrate single sign-ons, CRMs. There's a Symfony wrapper for Drupal 8 already, so you can write your specialist application. Go crazy on writing cool, efficient code in Symfony, and then integrate that back into Drupal. But it's all because Drupal 8 is web services first in its architecture, and there's a huge amount of value there to be had in many, many, many ways. Can I use Drupal? Does it support the way I use the internet? Can I use an alternate input device? Will a screen reader reliably tell me what is shown to you seeing people on a website? If I want to sell to the government, is Drupal a good choice? Well, Drupal 7 was highly accessible, and there's a very clear track record of that we can point to. We've got the Y-ARIA markup in the core. We've got highly, highly, highly structured and semantically meaningful data, both in our markup and in the way we put content together in Drupal 8. And that means that a screen reader knows exactly what's a heading, exactly what's a menu, exactly what's a paragraph, and so on. And it can read it right, and it can help you navigate through it right. If anyone's never seen how or heard how a screen reader works, it's pretty interesting. And because things are marked up semantically, controls are marked as controls, and so on, alternate input technologies should generally function very, very well with Drupal 8. And this is also really important. And frankly, on the one hand, 285 million visually impaired people are estimated to be on the web, and this is very important for them. I'm losing my hearing, and the visual part of the internet is going to be fine for me, but my awareness of these issues is growing with time. And from if all of this wasn't reason enough, anybody who wants to sell into government, higher ed, those sorts of organizations, NGOs, and so on around the world, basically all of them have accessibility requirements. So you need to look, you can say, look, GovCMS in Australia, completely compatible with security and accessibility requirements. The US government is standardizing on Drupal in many, many, many departments. There is a Canadian government solution in Drupal. There's a German government solution being built in Drupal. Drupal really does accessibility well enough for these people. It's going to be good enough for you. And even if your client doesn't care about any of this per se, because they sell, dog food in their local region or anything, who can tell me what super clearly structured semantic data gives that client for free? Yes. SEO. Better structured, clearer data gives you an SEO advantage. Drupal's always been really, really good for that too. Just choosing Drupal 8 automatically, if you have real content and are running a real business and all the rest of life, Drupal will automatically, is Google friendly, Yahoo friendly, Bing friendly. Is Drupal fast enough for me? Does it scale? Is it fast on mobile? If you're building an application that you hope to be at any significant scale, you do really need to know that it's going to, that your technology is going to be able to grow with you. So, Wim covered this morning. How many of you were in the Big Pipe session? Okay, all right. So we're going to do the abbreviated version of this, and you fact check me. Yeah. So part of this is taking us to Big Pipe. So Drupal 7 had a page cache, and that knew the state of any given page and when its cache was invalidated. That means when something changed on that page. And Drupal had one response to a page cache invalidation, and that was clear the cache and rebuild the cache. And it's a whole page of information. That's expensive, and it takes time, and it takes energy on your server. Drupal 8 has cache tags, has precise granular caching for any number of elements within a page, and it knows when any of those elements, when they need to be refreshed, and that piece of the cache gets invalidated and refreshed. The rest of the page just stays like it is. This is a huge advance. It speeds up our whole system. It makes a lot of things more efficient because, for example, we write an article, we spell check it 5 minutes later, most of us fix a link, right? And then it lives for any number of weeks or months or years. That thing doesn't have to be recached ever again. Because we're using HTML5, we get to play with local and offline caching and storage options. These are very interesting and a huge topic on their own. If you're interested in that at all, go find Dick Olson online. He's been doing really, really interesting stuff with that. PHP 7. Because we are up to date and compatible with modern versions of PHP, simply because we are keeping up to date with our friends now, with our friends and colleagues in PHP, our system. Look, the old versions of PHP we were using just a couple of years ago. Look how much faster we are now with PHP 5.6, PHP 7, running in the Hip Hop Virtual Machine environment. We just get much faster by keeping up to date. So then coming back to caching, right? Dynamic content substitution. So given that Drupal knows what is static and what is dynamic, what needs regenerating basically every time you hit the page. So what would that be if you're an authenticated user? Your friends list, and do you have permission to put, make a comment and so on? That's all dynamic and has to be recalculated essentially every time you hit a site. But the article, the photo, the stuff that your users actually want to see when they come to your website, that stuff is generally static, right? So Wim Leers and Fabian Trans led the effort to bring Big Pipe to Drupal. It is now an experimental core module since Drupal 8.1. And it's amazing. It has no configuration. You turn it on. It takes advantage of the fact that we have these cache tags. And if you can believe it, it delivers a page in exactly the same time that Drupal 8 would anyway. No? Well, okay. It is just after lunch. The cool part of that, though, is when somebody hits your page, when that page is requested, everything that's static and everything that's cached are shot straight to the browser. So in our case, that is the image and the article, and that's actually what I want to see when I get to your website, right? Then Drupal figures out if I can make comments, figures out what my friends are doing, figures out all the other stuff that's dynamic, right? But it's giving me each of those as soon as they're ready. And in the old model, right, it does it exactly the same way, but it waits until it's done before it gives me everything. So this is a huge boost in perceived performance. This is an incredible user experience improvement, and we get this for free because we use Drupal 8. And this is massive. And then the thing that really, really blew my mind when I found out about it not too long ago is refresh list. Did Wim talk about refresh list? Yeah, no? Yes? Yes. Yeah, so, mind blown, if you're on a Drupal 8 website and you're using refresh list, if you go to another page on the same website, Drupal knows the delta between the two pages. It knows what's the same and what's different on those two pages, and it only reloads the stuff that's different. One thing that Wim said years ago that I thought was incredibly impressive is that if we as, and I'm paraphrasing, if we as geeks want to make a difference in the world, if we want to have a more energy efficient, more sustainable future, like do our parts to fight climate change, our CMSs need to be as efficient as possible. This means fewer server calls, fewer electricity used, less server time used. It's pretty powerful. And the more of the internet we can run, like, the better, the more we can help too. Here's a good one. Can I hire Drupal developers and themers? And help me think of other questions for this part. So we outsourced a bunch of our core competencies in Drupal 8. Well, core functionality, but not core competency. So, we went from this mentality of if it's not invented here, I don't want it, to proudly invent it elsewhere. I use this slide just because I want to quote Larry there, who doesn't like pie. This is thanks to, so let me collect my thoughts here for a second. So a lot of this started when, the HTTP request handling that we'd had through Drupal 7, that was a literally unmaintainable and untestable piece of code. And it was a problem, and we had to figure out how to fix it. And the solution was, thanks to a couple of developments. PHP 5.3 introduced the concept of namespaces. So if I'm using a really crazy variable name like date, right, and your system also uses such an unusual name, we can actually work next to each other because they're safely isolated from each other. And because of namespacing, we were allowed to finally do dependency management in PHP. So we have a little thing called Composer now, and its potential successor called Puli. And the PHP framework interoperability group became more and more important and developed a bunch of PSR standards which define standardized ways of doing stuff, whether it's how to write your code, whether it's a logger interface, whether it's the newest one is PSR 7, which is HTTP request handling. The future is so interesting in this space where we can share stuff with other projects, okay? So PHP 7 defines exactly how an HTTP request and response should work, and we don't have this in Drupal 8 yet, sorry. But you can start a request in any application or any microservice and send it through any number of others and get it back on any other path, and everyone along the way will be able to use it. Amazing. So we've got a standardized interoperable world that's coming to fruition in PHP land, and Drupal 8 is in many ways the first meta product of this new, brave new world. And we've got all of these components from Symfony, HTTP kernel, and HTTP Foundation, plus the Guzzle library replaced our old HTTP handling. And to be compatible with this, well, we also have to be up to date with PHP. We have to write object-oriented code. We get to use dependency injection, which is all a very long-winded way of saying all of a sudden there are any number of developers out there who can open up Drupal 8 and get a handle on it pretty quickly and make useful contributions to your work or Drupal itself. Michael Schmidt from Amazing Labs ran into a guy at DrupalCon Barcelona at the code sprint. She was like, hey, you look like a Drupal person. I have a question. And Michael was like, yes, I am. Yes, I do speak Drupal. It's like, why does it do this and this and this here? I need to figure that out. And Michael said, it's very odd that you should ask. Have you never done Drupal before? Oh no, I'm a Symfony developer. This is the first time I've looked at Drupal. I just came because I saw you were in Barcelona and I walked into the sprints. And I didn't buy a ticket. I'm just here. Oh, okay, cool. And Michel explained this Drupalism to this guy, who then wrote a patch that got committed to Drupal 8 core. So we are able to hire developers more easily now. I've talked with people who are doing it, for hiring other flavors of PHP developers, hiring people from other languages, and so on, who can come to grips with our technology much, much quicker than they ever could with that crazy, beautiful, idiomatic thing that was Drupal through Drupal 7. We can also outsource our theming with a lot more peace of mind, because we can let themers actually work on their files on our servers, and the theme layer is probably not going to cause a white screen of death anymore, because Twig can't access the database unless you're dumb enough to set the flag that says it does. And it can. Okay, please don't do that. That is not safe twigging. But Twig basically can't actually access the database, but it does logic, it does all sorts of beautiful things. And it's also, I don't think I have the slide now, so it's got a really, really nice, it's got a pretty simple syntax that's pretty easy to learn and use. And Twig is also the front end technology, not only maintained by Sensio Labs who maintain Symfony, it's the front end theming layer of more than 100 other open source products. Okay? So here's a piece of business value that I didn't miss. Look, if you're a developer and you know your way around Drupal 8, okay, or you're a themer and you know your way around Twig, all of a sudden you have got an incredibly portable set of skills, right? There are no Drupal jobs in town? Well, you know how to write object-oriented PHP. You can go and work in any number of other, flavors of PHP applications, right? You know how to use Twig. You literally know how to use the front end for hundreds of other projects. We, as developers, have come out of our Drupal cave, and we are now more valuable, and our career path is much, much better aligned with the broader world of PHP, and that means, by the way, the broader world of more than 80% of the internet. So there's a huge amount of business value in the simple fact that we borrowed a bunch of code from open source friends. Huge amount. Drupal has always been pretty ugly in the back end, and if you ever had to rebuild or make a custom admin area in Drupal 6 or 7, you've been to that special hell. And in Drupal 8, we threw out a ton of boilerplate code and made a lot of the back end, for example, out of views. I think this is going to come up in my views slide, but now for the first time, if you know how to make a view, you know how to make an admin page in Drupal 8. So you don't like how it works? Customize it. It's just a view. Need to make something special, make something that's very particular to your organization, go ahead and do it. So you can make custom workflows. Workflows are also coming to Drupal 8, by the way, within a couple of iterations. So you can make custom workflows in Drupal 8 and make great experiences for people. We also have, as Angie Byron puts it, party like it's 1999. We have WYSIWYG and core. But our core community works very closely with the developer community around CK Editor. CK Editor was brought along through several iterations during the Drupal 8 process as well. It's super, super tightly integrated into Drupal 8. So, for example, inserting an image is done with Drupal permissions and in the Drupal way. CK Editor is now customizable for us. We talked about image styles and responsive images in core. So you can also make a custom CK editor for your editors, decide exactly which buttons are come in which ways. As of Drupal 8.1, language, and spelling buttons were added to CK Editor for us. As of Drupal 8.2, all of the CK Editor dialogues are also going to be Drupal styled instead of CK Editor styled. And what you've also been seeing here, just before this passage, was, of course, the incredible inline editor. So, everybody who knows what's going on in the back end, we standardize all the CRUD operations and how all the internal systems work in Drupal. So all of a sudden, we can do things like click into our content wherever it shows up, get that little editor pop out, fix a problem we see. It doesn't matter if it's in a preview block, how your view is displayed. If it's the main content node, you can fix something. Because all of that has been standardized across all of the systems in Drupal, now we can just go in there and save it, and it's saved in the database in the right place, and it's saved in every other place it gets displayed. But it doesn't matter where you edit it. That wasn't really possible before. Hey, so, I need a slideshow. Does Drupal do that? How do I do a content mashup? Mashup feels like an old word now, right? What about APIs and web services? We covered that a bit. Who doesn't know what Drupal views is? Anybody? Okay, that's cool. So, views is, in my view, probably our second killer app historically. So we had this tool that would let us query a database, of anything and say, I only want the black ones, or I only want the pink ones, or I only want the wooden ones, or whatever, and query that until we found the thing that we wanted, and then it would allow us to display it in all sorts of great ways. So it was a user interface for creating database queries and a set of tools to display the results of those queries in any number of ways that we want on our website. And this, right, starting really with Drupal 5, although it was there in 4.6 and 7 sort of, starting with Drupal 5, we had the triumvirate of views panel CCK, so we could model data and we could display data in a controlled way in places on the page, and we could pull it out with views. So that was a huge ability of ours that really, really took our technology forward. Now it's finally in core. This means that all of this stuff that views could always do, right, is there when you download Drupal, and anything that depends on the views ecosystem never has to wait for it to update and contrib anymore. It's maintained by people who are now core maintainers maintaining the view system. I'd like to point out my single favorite, and what I think the coolest feature in Drupal 8 is all of these different display types in Drupal. Now, Drupal 8 has a single checkbox where you can say, okay, this view that I just made. How many of you know how to make a view? Cool. Or also editing a view, that counts too. Yep, cool. So look, check one checkbox if you're American, tick one box if you're from the Commonwealth, okay? And your view is a REST endpoint. That means that you have now done what it would have a couple of 3, 4 few years ago would have taken weeks of work in Ruby to make a web service, right? You've just built a web service. You've just built an API. You've built, potentially, right, a digital business by simply knowing how to use views in Drupal. This is unbelievably powerful. This means that we can use Drupal to collect data from wherever we want, right? Mash it up, cut it together, process it, do stuff to it, and then output it in machine-readable, consumable form for anyone else to use, whether we're talking about open data portals, whether we're talking about movie listings, whether we're talking about the next greatest, I don't know what it is, but you have a digital business building UI given to you by the Drupal community. I'm completely blown away by this idea. Right, we can customize all of the backend, most of the backend of Drupal without having to know how to code it all anymore. I talked about that already. will Drupal work the way I want to work? How about Drupal deployment? And historically, the question about Drupal deployment was like, well, of course we do deployment. See, what we do is we work on a site for a while, and then we put a copy of that site up, and then I take my napkin or my envelope here that I've scribbled on, and I click back through all the configuration steps that I had done in the development site, and then I put in my data, and I hope to God that I configured it right, and then I try to launch it, right? And then napkin deployment. We've all done it, right? So Drupal 8, there was a really, really good idea where we split configuration out of the database, and they're now in YAML files, so it's just text, and because it's just text, we can export it, and we can version control it, and we can import it, so all of a sudden configuration across, importing, exporting, configuration across environments becomes just as easy as moving content databases and so on. Fantastic. So we export it from one site. It's just a text file. We can do anything we want that we can do to any other text file. We import it. It goes into a place called staging in the production site in this case. And Drupal shows us a diff. Drupal shows us what's different in that configuration. So we can really, really have a solid one last look at it before we decide whether to launch it or not, and then we can go. Really, really great. So because everything is now version controllable, this supports like any kind of Git workflows that you want to do. It's great, and I think this is only going to get better and only help us work better in future. So I don't think this is a great question, but it's what I came up with first. Can I get Drupal to model my data? How do I get Drupal to show me the phone dialer on my phone, on my mobile? I need better questions here. Please, I need better questions. Everything is a field, and everything is your hand is over the number. Thank you. Everything is a field, and all fields are entities, and all entities are themselves fieldable. So what used to be FlexiNode, which became CCK, which became entities in core, and now everything's an entity. Nodes and users and comments and everything are all equal in the eyes of the system, so we can model any data anything that the real world presents us with, we think we can model it with a data model in Drupal, make a content type, then use that content type. Yes, you can put comments on comments if you want, but you can also put 5-star ratings on a user or anything you can think of. And I don't know where to put this into presentation, but we've always had these content types, right? Now we have block types. You can define a custom block, and then you can reuse it wherever you want. And this is a huge advance for those of us who do site building and that kind of architecture. The reusable block is fantastic. And all of these entities, all of these field types, well, they're all semantic. An email knows it's an email, and a phone number knows it's a phone number. A date knows it's a date. So if we are on mobile and you have user entry, then your mobile operating system, your mobile browser will know to show the native date picker number, validated email interface, and so on, with the correct keyboard or the correct bit of interface there. Well, what about Drupal and SEO? I already told you the data was, very, very well structured and semantic. It is structured. It is semantic in terms that it is done by the standards set by schema.org, which is amazing if you want to geek out. If you were the kind of kid who read the dictionary, go to schema.org. It is a collection of how to describe things. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of them, and it's utterly fascinating. How do you describe a restaurant? How do you describe a movie? How do you describe, And we use schema.org schema, so we use a standardized way to describe data. A recipe then knows it's a recipe. A restaurant knows it's a restaurant in this case. So Google and Bing and Yahoo and the search engines don't have, thankfully, I think, rooms of hundreds or thousands of people in the developing world. When I type that I want to go to a restaurant in Bicocca in Milan, right, there aren't people that have typed that all in from somewhere. Google has gone, and it knows an address is an address. and it knows its opening hours, and it knows its price, and maybe it knows that people have submitted photos about it, and it knows, maybe it's combining that with another data source, but it knows where it is too. And all of this incredible SEO gold, right? Like if you land in the top 3 restaurants in any well-trafficked area in a city, that's gold for your business, right? Same with hairdressers, same with any number of businesses. So we get this structured semantic data for free in Drupal 8. My very last point, 2 minutes to go, and it sounds, I think this makes it sound, if we say, look, semantic versioning is a numbering system that has a major and a minor and a point release, that's not very exciting, right? But is Drupal going to be good for me in a few years? Is Drupal going to be innovative? Is Drupal going to keep track with the innovations online? Should I bet on Drupal now for the future of my business, right? Those sound like more important questions. So, and semantic versioning, which is not very glamorous, right, actually answers that question. Semantic versioning plus my favorite thing about Drupal. Like I told you what my second favorite thing about Drupal 8 was, right? My favorite thing is my favorite thing about all of Drupal. So semantic versioning plus my favorite thing about Drupal give us faster and predictable innovation cycles. We release a new minor point version of Drupal every 6 months, period, okay? And those minor point releases can have new features in them, new functionality. That was never the case before, right? If you had a great idea the day after feature freeze for Drupal 7, maybe you stuck around to get it into Drupal 8, but maybe you pissed off and joined another community, right? Drupal core didn't gain significant new features and functionality over the 5 years of its main lifetime. Drupal 8, if you have a great idea, you can get it in core in 6 or 12 months. And that's not only, important because the CMS can get better, but that's really, really satisfying. It's a great way for us to retain and keep great talent in our CMS, okay? And the core developer community made a promise to make Drupal better every 6 months, okay? And the Drupal 8 release cycle for long stretches was kind of agonizing, and anyone who was at DrupalCon Barcelona probably remembers how depressed we all were and how hard it was, okay? All of a sudden, things are changing. In April, we got BigPipe and the migration modules as experimental modules in core. Seek-editor was improved. Automatic JavaScript testing went in, which is going to make our semi-decoupled app-driving front-end world amazing in the future. And tours got highlighted, and I love the idea that Jan talked about today, like you have built-in documentation for your clients if you use tours right. So don't forget about tours, okay? So, and in October, we are getting this thing called the outside-in module, and other stuff, right? But the outside-in module is amazing. So, October 2015, right? Who was depressed, upset, worried that Drupal 8 would never come out, that we couldn't do this for another second? I was totally sick of doing sales pitches and talking with people about Drupal 8 because I'd been doing it, all of us got too excited too soon. We let the information leak out. It felt in the end like Drupal was 2 or 3 years late, like emotionally it was too late. I felt like I was selling vaporware at some point because people were like, well, yeah, okay, but when's it coming out, Like, we can talk when it comes out. And we said, we swear it's going to come out. Anyway, October 2015, I was having a really, really big sad, okay? October 2016, we've already got BigPipe in core, and Seek-editor is looking amazing. We're getting new, cool, amazing stuff all the time. This is block configuration in, is it running? Oh, this slide, wait. Yeah, look, I don't like the title block on my website. Click the edit, configure my block, save my block, that thing goes away. I'm done. I never went to the backend. Wow! A year ago, we didn't have Drupal 8, right? And I just have this feeling like it's just getting more, I really loved it already, and I loved it, before it was really real. So this is super cool. And then here's another one. Look, that menu's not right. Let me reorder my menu terms. Okay, Jam, you better go save your changes. There you go. Now your menu's fixed. So look how quick that is. Think about the demos you can do now, right? And think about the ease, the people who have to use your shit all the time, right? That's awesome. That's amazing. It's such a great experience for people who work with our site. Now look at those. What are those? Those are the regions on my page. I need to put something in a region. Oh, sorry. Okay. What do you want to put there? I'll put this block here. Can configure it. There we are. Now I have a block. So this is the concept of outside in. Let me get at functionality that's related to a specific spot on my page. Let me control it from where I am on the page. I'd say this is much, much quicker and easier than clicking through, first of all, even the baby steps version, knowing where in the admin thing to click through to get to configure that. Okay. And all of, we're badass because, since Drupal 6, who remembers, finger memory, all of the admin locations you ever go to, who just uses the URLs to do that, to administer your site? Of course we do, because we're geeks, right? But normal people don't do that. So you have a huge demo tool here. You have a huge ease of use. This is, I apologize if anybody contributed to it, but it's a huge improvement over the ridiculous mess that was the overlay in Drupal 7. And it's a lot more efficient. So Drupal gets better every 6 months. And we'll keep on doing this. This is my very last point, I swear. We'll keep on doing this for as long as it takes, not just to 8.4, but until, and maintaining backwards compatibility across our APIs, but innovating, through the Drupal 8.1, 2, 3, 10, 15, however many it is, until something happens that requires us to really, really break backwards compatibility in the APIs. Then there's an amazing vision, and there's a huge business risk for us right now convincing people to upgrade from Drupal 6 or Drupal 7 to Drupal 8, because it's expensive, because it takes a long time to build a site, right? Every single time we have one of these upgrades, people have the legitimate opportunity to go and choose Adobe or Sitecore or Typo3 or Joomla or Episerver or whatever, and we don't want them to. We want them to stick with Drupal, okay? A Typo3 CMS 7 minor version upgrade takes about 20 minutes now, okay? If we have a series of APIs that are all fine, and one or two we have to break, and one or two we know we can make better. At some point, when we know that has to happen, we can run a combination interim API with deprecated functionality that keeps going and new functionality that's in there, and then at 9.0, at 9.1, we shut off the deprecated stuff and we move on down, but it means that everything else that still works, it just still works, right? So you can have an upgrade from Drupal, 8.15 to 9.0, where maybe it's literally checking the compatibility of those pieces of the APIs that are different. And, it is like a regular service interval every 6 month thing that you've been doing with your clients for a few years already. There's a vision where we all have a future for 5 or 10 or 15 years if we make a smooth, easy, cheap transition through our major versions. Keep delivering innovation, then we're golden. My favorite feature of Drupal is us. It's you, it's all of us. The most powerful killer app that we have in Drupal is us and the smart people who like to hang out together and solve hard problems. Thank you very, very much for the solutions that you've contributed. Thank you for having me here today. I'm really happy to be here.